and this is a grade 5 science example that comes from Virginia Beach City Public Schools. This was written by one elementary science coordinator. Her name's Nancy, and she actually drafted this, and I gave her feedback over the course of several months. Once it was ready for a test drive, she actually started to share it with teachers, with families, and with students to continue to get clarity as to how she can hone the visual. One of the interesting parts, and something that Heidi and I generally do when we show this as the first example of a curriculum storyboard, is to ask the question, where does your eye go to first? Where does your eye go to next? And so the interesting part is, regardless of where your eye goes, it's still telling a coordinated, coherent experience. So me, for example, my eye immediately gets drawn to the visuals. So I'm looking at the roller coaster, and then I read up to the title, and then I read down to the focus of the story and the learning targets. And then I begin to make sense of the first quarter in conjunction to the rest of them. But as I start to think about this, the idea that that roller coaster, the image that I have in my mind is echoed by the notion of we, that immediately grabs my attention. And it was interesting, as Nancy actually tried to draft this, she did this for the first quarter with the we, and she said, Allison, do you think I could get away with doing another like one-word exclamation for the rest of them? And so not only did she do that, but she used the W's. So the interesting dynamic of trying to figure out what is compelling, not just to students in general, but in particular to 5th grade students.
That's right.
So it's not just the image and the expression, but also the emphasis of roller coasters and F-18s. And I don't know if you're familiar with Virginia Beach area, but F-18s fly overhead on a regular basis. So that's part of the kids' lived experience, as well as the local amusement park. That's part of the typical attraction, especially as elementary field trips. So that to me is another interesting dynamic of trying to get it so that students are feeling this experience as they're learning core science content.
Now, here's an interesting little reading challenge. I'm going to ask you to look at this again. If you read the focus of the story, it is written for the learners. Now ask yourself, what do you think is going to be more compelling, attractive, and engaging to an 11-year-old? Something about, we know what energy is, but how can it be transformed versus a set of behavioral objectives? I respect the state of Virginia's behavioral objectives, but I got to tell you, they were not written for 5th graders in Virginia Beach. So the notion here is all the time and energy that's put into filling out a lot of forms could be converted into writing curriculum directly for students. So you have more time and energy to really work on what they're doing day to day. We are spending too much time on efforts that don't pay off directly for kids, where we could be much more efficient, much more effective, and absolutely fulfill our responsibilities.